Hello everyone. Today I wanted to go through an introduction to Zusi. If you are a new user to Zusi and you don't speak German, you may have noticed that there is a pretty significant lack of tutorials or video tutorials showing how to configure and use the simulator. It is an excellent simulator and it has an excellent English translated manual, but you need to know quite a bit about the simulator the first time you use it in order to prevent your train from tripping the train protection systems. Um, you need to know how to load into a timetable, how to find a timetable. All this information you can find in the manual. And again, it's a very good manual and you should absolutely read it. But when you just spent the money, bought it, and loaded it up and realize that you can't get your train to go very far, or you don't even know how to load a train or find the train you want, that can be a little frustrating. So that is what this little series of tutorials will hopefully rectify. So when you load a Zusi as of version 3.5, this should be what you see. And I want to run through a couple of configuration options before I get started, things that could potentially be useful to you. So under the configuration menu, you go to settings. You have all of your graphics information here. If you go over to the graphics and sound tab, this is where you can adjust how the game looks, which is really probably only necessary if you have issues with performance. You will have a frames per second or FPS counter in the top left of the sim. So, if you're only getting 15, 20 frames, you should come in here and start playing around with some of this. Maybe turn your horizon down. If you want to increase the signal lamp magnification because you think it's hard to see, maybe at a distance, you can do that here. I am actually going to turn my audio volume down just so you can hear me over the game when we're playing. The simulation tab is also helpful. Here you can set chaos and irregularities, which once you get used to the simulation and the signaling and how to drive your train, this can kind of be fun. This is the chance that things won't go according to plan. Maybe you'll have substitute signals, you'll have alternate routes being taken, different traffic. So it's just a little bit of randomness. Under difficulty, these are all toggles that you have available to you, which can make learning the simulator a little bit easier. For example, if you don't want to worry about substitute signals, if you don't want to worry about the correct ways to close the door on the train that you're using, because there are several different methods depending on the door system on the train. Maybe you're getting a lot of wheel slip and it's just too much to manage while you're trying to learn everything. You can come in here and you can turn these things off. However, remember that Zusi is a train simulator. It is not a game. And the goal is to realistically simulate the operation of these trains to the degree allowed by the application. And so I would encourage you to try and move towards having all of these boxes unchecked. Okay. Next is input devices. So I'm going to play on a keyboard. This is the default keyboard layout. And if you want to change any of this, you can, well, here they've got a laptop layout, or you can have a custom layout where you can click in one of these cells and then press a new key to change the key binding. But I'm just going to use the default layout. So whenever I tell you what key to press, it's going to be based on this default layout. Some important ones are your power controllers. So here, increase throttle is going to be your numpad 8, decrease is going to be your numpad 2, and to reset is 5. So if you look at your keypad, increase is at the top, decrease is at the bottom, resets in the middle. Your AFB, or cruise control, is right next to it. Kind of follows the same pattern. Then to turn your cruise control on is A. If you drive a train with a dynamic brake, you've got controls to the right of your power controller. Your actual train brake is right here, plus and minus. Your protection systems are the ones in red. So CIFA is to acknowledge the CIFA alert is space. To acknowledge PZB is the enter key over here. To release it is the period. So you can kind of look around at these as you look around the cab keys. Page up and page down are your reverser keys, and the door opening and closing. The ones that we'll be using in the train today is just going to be inserted in home, but there are potentially other keys that you'll need for that. If you want to use controllers, you can do that with the direct input devices. I'm not actually going to be using a controller today. I do have just one device connected right now that it detects, and if I want to configure that, all I have to do is click this activate key assignment, and I can choose something to map. We'll say maybe this, and then I press the access, and it pops up on here. But I'm not going to use those. Okay, and next one is network. Now, network, you only need to do this if you want to use this Zusi display, and we'll talk more about Zusi display once we get in the sim. But to enable it, what you're going to want to do is go into this network window and just start server. By default, the server is usually stopped, so you just need to start it. And I think you only have to do that once. I've only ever had to start the server once, and then any other time I've loaded the game, it's been running. And that will allow Zusi Display to connect to your simulator. Okay, so how do we actually get in a timetable? Under Simulation, if you click Open Timetable, then you'll go to Deutschland. Here are all of our available timetables. So Hamburg-Kassel, we have 7 different ones available in here, and they're in the same general format where you'll have the route, the cities, the 2 major cities in the route, the year of the timetable, and the hour. The U, I think, has some significance, which I don't recall. Some of them will have a day like Monday in it, but you should be able to figure it out. And there are lots and lots of routes. And the problem becomes, well, which route do I want to take? Because maybe the route that I just selected doesn't have the train that I want. So there's a couple of resources for this. The best one, in my opinion, is this Zusi 3 database. Here is the web address up here. I will link that in the description of the video. This is an excellent resource. It allows you to search timetables by a lot of different things. So the genus of the train, the number of the train, the timetable. If you are dead set on a particular timetable, you can select that in there. Maybe a city that you want to enter the route on. Train run, what I use as far as if I find a city that I want to drive through. So maybe I find a route, and I'll show you a map of the routes in a minute here. And there's a city that I want to drive through on that route. I can type that city in, and it'll show me all the timetables that go through that city. What we're going to do today, or the way I usually do it, is I'll use this series. So for this demo, we're going to be doing the Talent 2, which is a series 442. So I'm going to type 442, leave that. And I don't want to start on the move, rather start a mobile. I'll just leave that check, doesn't really matter. Then I can hit search. So this is going to show me all the routes in Zusi that use the 442. Here they are. Okay, these are all regional bonds, regional expresses, I'll go to page 2. It should all be RVs and REs. Yep. And you can find information on the route. You look over here. Almost all these routes are about half an hour for this particular train. They all go up to 160 kilometers per hour. So you can select one of these. So for example, we'll grab 10922. Click there. This is the timetable that you want. This is the timetable group that you're going to want. And this just tells you more about the route itself. Break hundredths. I believe this refers to how good the train is at braking. I'm not 100% sure. This is the timetable, the actual schedule that you're going to keep to. But what's really important is these first two groups here and the number of your train, 10922. So we're going to use this information. We want Hennef, Au, Altenkirchen. I apologize to any German speakers. I am sure I'm going to butcher most German words we come across today. In Zusi, simulation, open timetable. So I'm looking for this Hennen route, and I don't see it in here. And that's because it is in one of these folders as part of a bigger route. So what I can do on Windows 10 anyway is search up here in Deutschland, and I'll look for, and here it pops up. What I want is this FPN file. So double click that, and it'll open it up. Okay, so here's our timetable. We have all this information, which I would need to run through a translator to understand. Some other timetables have detailed maps and other information, historical information about the route. Good stuff to know. Up here are a list of all the various trains that we can run. Okay, so we wanted timetable group RE9 to Aachen. So let's go RE9 Aachen. And we were 922, I believe. Yep, 922. So here is our route. This is the time of the day it's happening in. I believe these are the cars. And here's our schedule. The bolded ones that have an arrival and a departure time are the ones we're stopping at. The ones with just a departure time we're passing by. So this is what I want. Then I can double click it. It will load everything down here. And it will pop us into the sim in just a moment. All right. Here we are in the sim. Nice foggy morning. I've paused it by pressing F2. That gets rid of the sound so you can hear me. The frames, 56 frames per second. You can toggle this off if you want in your configuration. It's currently 4 o'clock in the morning. This is our timetable. It's just a window that floats on top of the sim. It is static, nothing updates here as you drive. It's just like a paper timetable. The data tab down here with a couple more, a little bit of information. This is really good to know, this door closing system. The system on the Talent 2 that we're going to be driving is very easy to use, but there are some that are more complex, and you can look it up in the manual, but you need to know what the door closing system is. I'm going to close this. Okay, train will enter at 3:37 p.m. That's about 12 hours, which we obviously don't want to wait for that in real time. we have a couple options. Under simulation, we can fast forward with F1. We're currently paused with F2. Or we can time leap with F4. If we fast forward, our clock will speed up and the screen will still be redrawn. So if there are trains coming through here, you'll see them zoom by quickly. And I'll demonstrate that now. So here we're fast forwarding. You can see the clock is moving along. Now there were no trains that came by because it's 4 in the morning. No one's out this early. However, even at that increased pace, we're going to be here a very long time. So that's why we use time leap. Time leap will fast forward in the background, but it will not redraw the screen. Nothing will appear to be happening. There will be no noise. Even your clock won't update. You just have to take it on faith that something is happening in the background. Then at 3:37, our train will appear on the track below us, and we will teleport into its cab, and Zusi will restore our speed to normal speed. So we'll do that now. So right now we are time leaping. Nothing is updating. We just have to patiently wait. And depending on how busy the route is, this can happen actually fairly quickly, and sometimes it can still take a few minutes. If you're kind of getting impatient and you want to know how far along the process you are, you can take it out of time leap. Oh, never mind, it just popped in. Okay, so, but if you take it out of time leap, it'll update the screen and show you what time it's advanced to, and then you can put it back in time leap and go the rest of the way. So here we are in our sim. We're in the Talent 2. Let's do a quick overview of the Talent 2 to kind of get our bearings. Now this is specific to the Talent 2. However, any modern electrical multiple unit or EMU is going to have the same basic setup. So starting on the left, this little guy over here that's cut off the screen, that is our radio. I don't actually do anything with it. This first large screen on the left, this is sort of a miscellaneous panel. It will show power of our two trains. This particular consist that we're running has two trains connected, and you can see the power at both of them. You can see the kilowatt hours that you've used. I believe this box here, as you're accelerating or decelerating, it will tell you the force in, I think it's kilonewtons. If you stop at a station and open the doors, the screen will change to one that shows your door status. I believe this button down here, FIS, will allow you to control the passenger information displays. I haven't really gotten into that yet. But basically, this is sort of your miscellaneous control your train panel. Over here in the center, you have your speedometer in kilometers per hour. Next to it, this is, I don't know what it's actually called, but it will show the power that you are applying or the braking force that you're applying in percent. So if you push the power lever forward, you'll get blue out here on this half of the circle. If you pull it backwards to brake, you will get orange over here on the braking side. Down here, this row is train status icons. Mostly it's going to be train protection. So your CFA light will illuminate over here above the T. This over here is your inducee indicators, and we'll talk about all that in a little bit. You'll get warnings down here. These dials over here, this is your brake pressure. The brakes will automatically apply if you are not applying forward power in your stop. So when you stop and open the doors, even if you put your power controller to off, you will retain brake pressure. Then you close your doors, you move your power controller to the first forward notch. You'll still have brake pressure until you move the power controller forward a little more to actually generate forward power, then the brakes will automatically release. But you can watch all that happen here. This here is your timetable, Fahrplan. This, there's a whole section in the manual that talks about this, and some routes are more complex than others. This one is fairly straightforward. We can see the line speed here in this column, 110. So where we are right now is this diamond. So we are in the 110 kilometer per hour zone. And actually, what I'll mention is if you press F8, you'll get a little cheat window. And I would encourage you to use this as you learn the sim, or as you learn a new train, or as you learn a new route. At the evaluation at the end of your route, you will lose a whole lot of points for having this up, but that's okay because we're learning. This will show you real time your acceleration, your current speed, the kilometer post that you're at, the maximum speed in the track section that you're at, and well, here it's showing me my next stop. If there is a speed limit change coming up, it'll show that, just kind of miscellaneous info out here, and then the current time in the simulator. So we can see here, line speed is 110. That matches up with our max speed on our little cheat window. Kilometer post 68.2 is pretty close here, 68. This is a description of what is at the mile post. They don't know what BK sig is. Again, you'd want to read this in the manual. This little yen symbol, I believe that is a junction, track junction. So probably behind us there's a track junction. This here's our first station, Au Sig. We are supposed to arrive at 1542. We're supposed to depart at 1543. That's different from these other stations. There is no arrival, only a departure. That means that we just have to pass it by. We don't stop there. Now, in the Talent 2, it's very easy to read this. On some of the other trains, the resolution is not as great, or maybe your far plan is cut off. Maybe it's over here on the left and it's cut off on your screen. Or maybe you have a second monitor and you'd rather have it up on that to see it easier. That is what Zusi Display is for. If you remember, we configured the network settings so that Zusi Display can run. And you can launch that by right-clicking, going to Configuration, Launch Zusi Display, and all of these are different screens for different trains. Well, here's one for the Talent 2. I don't know if I've ever looked at this before. Okay, so this is the screen here. There will be a way to actually connect this to the simulator. I don't believe this is connected because I've only got the one display here. But all these buttons are pressable. You could put this on another monitor, and maybe you're building a home train cab with hardware controls. You could integrate this. The one that I probably use most frequently is the timetable, which is this one right here. I'll show you how to configure that real quick. So again, it's blank. Down here, Zook, button 1, press that. Now our train number is 10922, and then we're going to press E. And there we are. Now we're going to press E again. All right, here is our timetable. We can use these buttons to scroll up and down. You can use these buttons over here on the in-cab version also when it's not paused. But everything you see here, I mean, it's just a mirror copy of this. Now, like I said, in the Talon, I can see this perfectly fine, so I'm going to close it, but just realize Zusi Display is there for you if you need higher resolution information. Most frequently, I think I would use it for some of these main displays. You can't really read some of the icons very well. Okay, other miscellaneous controls. Power controller is the handle on the left. Indirect brake is the handle on the right. Door controls here. This is the center one that's lit. Shows that my doors are closed and locked. If I want to open the right door, I can press that button, and it is a click zone, so I can click it, or I can press my home button. The left doors here would be the insert button. I don't generally click any of the buttons just because I use the keyboard or other hardware controls, so no particular need. So, all right, that is the tour of the cab. I believe that next what we'll do is we'll actually do a little bit of train driving and passenger operations and such. So that will be on a different route. So I will get that set up and see you there.